Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to another round of the TEE season. And we are here for the Chinese Grand Prix. You can see already there's some times that have been put on the board. We were trying to sort out Max's audio issues. He's restarting his PC, and hopefully at some point very soon, he will be joining us to watch tonight's action. At the moment, we've only got the interrun, so it doesn't really matter too much. But in case you're wondering, Maximilian Leclerc, the China merchant as he is, he's currently leading the standings 133.456. There is no game audio because for some reason the it's got something against us. But I will try to get everything with you as soon as I possibly can, and then we can get our racing action underway for this evening's action. Maximilian is absolutely destroying my drums at the moment with that, so we'll switch to somebody else. Lucas Beisner, he's on. I mean, everyone's on an in-lap, of course, but Marvin Gome is coming out now. He's going to switch straight onto the softs, and his first run will be on those soft compound of Ty. He'll be the first one to set a lap on those softs, unless I am wrong. No, he is. Mr. Pike is currently on the medium compound of Ty. I'll take this opportunity then to talk about the lineups for this evening's action. TF10 have a lineup of Lucas Beisner and Thomas Laminen. Thomas Enger Sim Racing, the quickest in quali, haven't been able to translate it to the race yet. Well, they've got Tamas Kokani and a new driver in that second spot, Mikolai Novicki. FVR have Maximilian Leclerc and Alessandro Finn, who are currently, I believe, 1 and 3 after those interruns. So promising times for FVR. Then it's Dennis Langrock and Nando Moreira. Last time out's race winner. And then ATX with, Luke Walster and not Matthew Bassett, as it says there. They had a late dropout from Mr. Bassett. And instead, they have Roman, who will, of course, face a quali ban. NLR have Miska Heikkila and Lewis Jones. ABS have Pasquale Ranieri and Marvin Gome. ET8 have Azoles and Pau Villegas. SET, who we'll get into why they're here in a minute, have Unai Vega and Adina Tux. And Mr. Pike and Roberto Nalesco are racing for IRT. But I'll switch back now to the action as we're getting underway for the first rear runs of this qualifying session. It'll be Marvin Gome taking the first lap for ABS, a wide entry, a clipping exit of turns 1 and 2, sliding wide on the exit of turn number 2, and the Alpine is going to continue on. With this lap, it won't be, well, I mean, there's a couple of tenths that have been shaved off by that exit. It won't be dramatically bad, especially with 10 minutes left. This is more like a banker. The first one on the intermediates is just, to get a feel of the track, and then we continue on. The Haas drivers, by the way, they're the guys for SET, but they forgot to put their tags in front of them. SET making their debut in tonight's race. The reason being is that Zenith F1 have decided to pull out of the event because they had availability issues, which prevented them from competing. So yeah, SET getting a late call up and big screen freeze there. I think this is pretty common throughout the F1 community. Marvin Gome around the final couple of corners now. What sort of time is the Alpine going to set? It's going to be pole position most likely, unless he royally messed up this lap, but it doesn't really look like he has. And getting the power down on the penultimate corner, setting himself up for the final one, which is just a little kink. And around the final corner, yeah, Marvin Gome, he's going to take provisional pole, 130.7, so only 3 tenths ahead of Maximilian Leclerc, who's just started his regular run. Ironut is a second up on his time. He currently has a 134.0. Unai Vega comes around the final corner, the first lap for SET in TEE. Love a little bit of an acronym, but Unai Vega around the final corner, number 76, Haas car. What sort of time is he going to set? It's going to be slower than Marvin Gome by a tenth and a half. Unai Vega into second place. Maximilian Leclerc has improved by... Oh, is that Max that I can hear?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes, I am back. I was letting you keep in your flow there before I announced myself back on the scene, but I managed to get my Discord back working and everything's back Audio's back where it should be, not in the wrong headphones, but I'm here. Hello, everybody. It seems that Cockcast has taken you through quite an eventful start of this session with a lot of the drivers on the intermediates. But take back your role. You were on a roll there, Cockcast. So go straight back to it. You were saying Lockett was on the lap, I think, as he's heading down into the hairpin now.
Yeah, Maxi Lockett around the final couple of corners. The China Merchant, or the Chine Merchant, if you're listening to our Twitter, he's on his lap, and he's on a push lap, and it needs to be Ironut, who's just gone 4/10 quicker than Marvin Gome. Lockett around the final corner. The Williams is going to take provisional pole with a 1:30.074, so that's a pretty solid lap. Mikolaj Nowicki is going to start his first push lap for Thomas Engers Sim Racing. Marvin Gome comes into the pits. Ironut's on an in lap. Just having a look around. Who's the next driver across the line? It's going to be one of the Haas's, Odinatux, I think, as he slots his way up into 5th place. So a solid start then for the SET drivers. Although, having said that, they are only ahead of the intermediate runners. And, now Mishka Heikkila has slotted in behind them. So, yeah, time's coming in. Thomas Laminen, the next one to throw in a time for the Red Bull team, TF10. And he comes across the line with a 1:30.3. And that's somebody following through. That's Alessandro Finn, who joins Maximilian Lockett, his teammate, on the front row. Mr. Pike then, no, Robert Dinilescu diving into the pits. Another screen freeze. Robert Dinilescu coming to the pits. He was improving by 2 seconds. He didn't feel that was enough. And, he comes into the pits. Will not be improving on his time. Pau Villegas, 1.8 seconds up on his time. Is that good enough? We'll have to see as he crosses the line. It's 5th place for the ET8 driver. Nando Moreira, though, announces himself this evening. 1:30.049, 3/10 ahead of Maxi Lockett.
Yeah, Moreira straight back off the top, starting off where he left off in after Abu Dhabi and straight to the top of the times, only just in front of Maximilian Lockett there. So, more drivers should be heading up to the line around about now to finish off some of their laps. I say that, and I can't actually find anybody on a lap. Miko has just finished his. Kokeni's apparently in the pit lane for me, but he's still driving round in the garage. That's confusing. But Lockett has decided to retire from the session. Of course, this circuit, if you get a good time straight away, it's going to be very difficult for other drivers to beat. Yes, we have track evolution, but this track's such a challenge, especially with those longer right-handed corners, which then lead you into a tight and twisty section. So, yeah, the first sector and the second sector really where you find your time. The final sector is just all about your straight line speed, and that's just where confidence comes into things. So, as drivers come back into the pit lane to get ready for their final run of the session, and we shall see more drivers at the top of the field start retiring their cars. Moreira, Lockett, Finn, Nowicki, Ironut, and I would say Kokeni are the drivers that should be able to retire. But we have Pascal Ranieri on a lap here in the Alpine, and he's not really had the greatest of turn 8s. He's gone into 9 and 10, a big slide out of turn 9. That's going to affect his run all the way down into turn 11 over the middle sector, split 51.0. So into turn 11, not set a lap on the intermediates, has Pascal, as we now head through turn 12. Very long right hander, really got to wait to get that power back on. Make sure you don't light up the rear tyres as you then open up the DRS halfway down this straight now, and we'll go all the way to the left hand side as you run it down into the hairpin. So for Pascal, braking at 100 meters, get the car over that apex curb, just misses it ever so slightly. Another big slide of the rear end. Obviously not running a lot of rear downforce is Pascal, but he decides to head into the pit lane. That lap was not good enough, especially through turns 8 and 9. Knows he has time in it, but with 4 minutes left on the clock, he's not got much time to get a lap time on the board, and this could be all or nothing for Pascal at the end of this session.
It is all or nothing, and all or nothing. Because there's 18 drivers in this session at the moment. We're missing a couple. I will just have a look. I think it's both the ATX drivers. Is it? Looking for Luke Wolstow and Roman. It looks like it is both the ATX drivers. Let's hope that they will join us at some point this evening. But yeah, we've got someone as well who, one of those has a quali ban, so I'm not surprised that Roman hasn't turned up. But for Luke Wolstow, this could be... Well, this is a grave shame because he'll be starting at the back of the grid. We've got drivers coming out now for their final runs. Uno Vega, Robert Dinalescu and Mr. Pike. Because of the fact that we've got 2 drivers missing, it's only 3, I believe, out of the first round of qualifying. And at the moment, that is both of the IRT drivers of Robert Dinalescu and Mr. Pike, and Pasquale Ranieri as well, who are the bottom 3 at the moment. With a lot of time to find, Dinalescu and Mr. Pike didn't set a valid dry run yet. Pasquale Ranieri hasn't set a valid dry run at all, as Mikołaj Nowicki becomes the latest driver to retire. I'm sure his teammate Tamas Kokeni will retire as well. The Thomas Enger sim racing drivers will be desperate for anything this evening because, I mean, the qualifying pace has been absolutely something special. But race pace has been nowhere near good enough.
No, it certainly hasn't. I mean, they somewhat ruined the strategy last time out in Abu Dhabi with Combe. So it's going to be interesting to see how they attack this one. Yes, do they just go for full race focus? Don't worry about where you qualify. It's easy to make up positions, especially in that into the hairpin at China. Try get it through there, or do they carry on with this immense qualifying pace? I mean, this is one of the first sessions we've not seen them top in qualifying, so it's a very unique sight to see as Mr. Pike is on his lap heading through the middle sector, currently heading through turn 8 in the IRT Sauber. But yeah, for TES, they need a better performance. They've had those opportunities to be well far clear in this championship. They could be a good 20, 30 points clear with some of the qualifying results they've had, but they've just not been able to turn that into race performances. And unfortunately, that's what's really started their season off so poorly, is those race performances, is those strategy blunders. And yeah, this could be a very important race in terms of their championship perspective here this evening. So for Mr. Pike, now heading in to the final, one of the final braking zones, should I say, the penultimate corner of the circuit. Then you get back on the power nice and early, and then you want to just take it into the final corner on the brakes. Try use all the circuit on the outside. He doesn't invalidate it this time around. What's it going to be? And it goes up to 13th place, a 1:30.814. That's still at risk of elimination here. There is a McLaren who's on an outlet. That's Dennis Langrock. Marvin Golm is in the first sector, and that's Pasquale Ranieri behind Dennis Langrock. So the next driver is Robert Dinalescu, of course teammate to Mr. Pike. Could he put his teammate one step closer to the drop zone? Of course, for IRT, that was the story in the first round of the season. Both of their cars being knocked out in Q1, and one of them being Robert Dinalescu. So up to the line now for Robert. What's it going to be? And it's not quick enough to get out of qualifying. So that's one driver ticked off the list of who is going to be eliminated. So it's down to Miska Hekila and Pasquale Ranieri to try and knock out both of the SET drivers as Unai Vega doesn't improve on his lap time. He stays 14th. It's all down to Odin Tux to try and get further up the order, get himself into that safe zone for SET as we're now heading in to turns 11 and 12, only up by 0.06 of a second at the moment for Odin. This will not be the greatest lap for him. And my controller's disconnected. There we go. We are back once again as Odin needs a mega braking zone into the hairpin. Marvin Golm goes up into 8th place. That puts him safe from elimination. Lewis Jones was 11th as he crossed the line. He was, of course, also safe as well. So all eyes really are on Miska, Pasquale Ranieri, and Odin Tux. Heading into the final corner now is the SET Haas. He's gone very wide on corner exit. Lucky not to invalidate that, but doesn't improve by enough. He's still at risk here. As Hey Killer is now heading out of turn 12. Is Pasquale just in front? Yes, he is. Pasquale now heading into the final corner for the Alpine. This is to get through. Langrock goes up into 5th. For ABS, they need Pasquale to try and get his car through, and he does. He goes just in front of his teammate, Marvin Golm. They get both of their cars through. Now Unai Vega is on the cusp. Could we see the SET new boys getting knocked out in Q1 together? DRS open for Hikela. What's it going to be? And it is enough to knock out SET. Unai Vega and Odin Tux on their debut here in China unfortunately miss out on Q2, and for NLR and Hikela, that was an crucial lap, because NLR last week I think both got both their cars into qualifying. They'll want to do this into Q3. Sorry, they'll want to do the same here this evening, and that is certainly a way to do it to at least get through to Q2.
Yeah, confirmation then of the grid after Q1. Nando Moreira taking pole position. God, that feels like a long time ago now, with Maximilian Leclerc in second. The two FVRs second and third, with Alessandro Finn in third. Mikolaj Nowicki, Dennis Langrock, Ayhanut Tamás Kokeni, Thomas Laminen, and then Pasquale Ranieri and Marvin Gomes running out the top 10. Pau Villegas, Lewis Jones, Lucas Beisner, Miska Häkkilä, and that was Mr. Pike, the last driver through to the next qualifying session. So yeah, as you said, the Haas really proving to be a curse. First for Zenith, now for SET on their debut. And Robert Danilescu, he will be down in P18 with both the ATX boys. Hopefully they're able to join at some point between now and the race, but they will be starting from P19 and P20. Q2 then, in very overcast conditions. We could be seeing a little bit of rain. I swore I saw just a little tidbit towards the end of that session. It didn't affect the times, but it could be something that is lingering around the corner.
It certainly could. Rain lingering maybe in the air here over the Shanghai International Circuit. So we're going to get ready for Q2 here. Of course, for the drivers that were near the elimination zone of Q1, it's going to be certainly a bit of a wake-up call heading into the second part of qualifying. It may mean they use an extra set of those fresh, soft, compounder tyres, leaving them a bit short into Q3. But we'll have to wait and see. Of course, a lot of the drivers were able to save a set, from retiring after their first lap. So they do still have that set in hand to use either in this session or in Q3. So everybody on the track so far, except from Tanis Kokeni, Nowicki and Pau Villegas, but he's coming out now, is the V-Carb. So the first driver to be setting a lap is going to be Alessandro Finn. But he's gone very deep into turn 11, but luckily no one behind him to really get in the way of his preparation. But Alessandro Finn, he got through into Q2 nice and easily, was just behind his teammate Maximilian Lückert, and FVR looking to dominate this weekend, this evening, with Maximilian, of course, as Koch has already mentioned, the China merchant, as FVR call him. And Alessandro Finn can still put in a good performance alongside that. And of course, these FVR and ETA still joint at the top of the standings. So this is a crucial evening as well, Kotkaz, not only for TES, but for FVR and ETA as well, to finally try and separate themselves in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be absolutely crucial just to see if they can take advantage of Maxi being incredible at this circuit. I'm sure they're going to do their best to try and take advantage of that, but we will see with Alessandro Finn. Hopefully, wing-manning him perfectly. That's a tongue twister if I've ever heard one. And Finn, well, I mean, he's got a purple first sector, so it's a good start. I know that's because it's 1 out of 1, but it's a good start nonetheless. And the Williams, who found himself in third place after Q1, will be continuing on and trying to keep up that same momentum. Remember, after this, it's the top 10 shootout. So we have 5 drivers eliminated from this session. And then we will have the straight shootout for pole position, which generally is won by a Thomas Enger Sim Racing driver, at least in the first 2 rounds of this season. It has been. But they're still both sitting in the pits. They're preserving their tyres. They're preparing, I think, for that third qualifying session. So a very, very bold move from Thomas Enger Sim Racing. They think they can make it through to Q3 like a breeze with 11 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. Probably enough time for 2 runs. Alessandro Finn, he's hopefully going to have 3 as he slides his way into the hairpin and comes out of the other side of it, trying just to pretend like he meant to do that. He certainly did not mean to, but sliding through the final corner as well. A big snap of oversteer for Alessandro Finn, and he comes across the line with a lap he will not be happy with. 1:31.497, especially if Lucas Beisner sets a lap like that. Hello, Lucas. Where are you coming from with that 1:30.2? Just absolutely annihilating all of the competition. Pasquale Ranieri, although Thomas Laminen going even faster. So TF10 1-2. Maximilian Leclerc going even faster. So all the drivers just surpassing what I thought at least was possible with these early laps. We've got more drivers coming across the line. Ayhanut's coming to the pits. Nando Moreira is going to come across the line. And he's going to be the first
Oh,
driver this
wow.
evening into the 129s. Wow, Max exclaims as we watch Nando Moreira 129.896. What a lap that is.
Wow, that was a brilliant lap time there from Nando Moreira. So that is going to be an incredibly difficult lap time to beat here in Q2, and that surely is going to be safe for the rest of the session. So for Nando Moreira, he really can retire from Q2 and head into Q3 with 2 top of the timesheets, you would think, in a row. So from Abu Dhabi, he's really picked up some fine form, especially around this circuit here in China. And that is going to be interesting to see how he can try and help TTM further on in their quest for glory here in TEE. Of course, he gave them their first PC-only win last time out. Can he make it 2 on the bounce? That is the question. But, of course, the driver who has got pole position over the past 2 races have not gone on to win the Grand Prix. So that is also another thing to look out for. But for the likes of Kokeni and Nowick, they're now starting their lap times now. Nowicki through the first sector, apparently purple with a 23.6. So what can the TES boys do as they're heading into the middle sector? So far, no times for Ionut. He's the only driver who has come out on the circuit to not set a lap time. But for Kokeni and Nowicki, it is all about their run through the end of this middle sector. Nicely done there from Mikola as he now exits out of turn 10, down into turn 11 and 12. It's a 50.6 in the middle sector. So far, so good, it seems, for these Thomas Eng boys as they're now trying to get the best run as they possibly can down into the hairpin.
Yeah, and Nowicki, so far on this lap, it looks pretty decent. I think they're going against the grain. Only 2 drivers out on track on laps. The only exception being Ionut, who's out on his outlap, and Nowicki just throwing his car into the hairpin, out of it as well. He's going to be hoping to be in the 29s, but it's unlikely at this point that he's going to hit that. Nowicki's going to push as hard as he can across the line. 1 minute 30.170, so it's closer than I thought it was going to be. And now we're going to switch to Tamas Kokeni, not as I accidentally did. Lucas Beisner as Kokeni goes in with a 129.974. So those top 2, I mean, we saw last time out. We're seeing it again. They just have dominance, especially, well, at least in qualifying, over the rest of the field.
Yeah, they certainly do. So we shall see how this progresses for the likes of Kokeni. Just, he's been so fast in these qualifying sessions. Again, as we said earlier, not been able to turn that into race pace, but with that dominance in qualifying, you can surely expect at least one time that the race will go in his favour, and that's surely safe for the Thomas Eng Sim driver as well. I'm surprised Nando Moreira hasn't retired just yet on that 29.8. Obviously thinking he might not be entirely safe at this point. Probably just going to see how these second runs go for everybody else, see how much the track is improving, and then make the decision to retire or not. So for everybody else, Maximilian Lookhart is now out on the circuit. Ionut is actually on a lap himself, heading into the middle sector of 50.6. Not the quickest we've seen so far from the V-Carb. Of course, ET8 getting both cars as well into Q3 last time out. It usually is Marcel Pabst in one of these cars, but this evening he unfortunately is not here. Of course, he took pole in the first round of the season as well in Portimao. So DRS open for Ionut, heading down into the hairpin. It's going to be braking at 100 meters down to 3rd gear. Clip that inside curb, run it all the way to the outside curb. Back on the power as nice and early as you possibly can. Make sure you don't light up the rears as you head into the final corner. Make sure you don't run too far wide to invalidate. Nicely done, nicely kept in play by Ionut as he comes across the line to go into 3rd place. A brilliant lap time there from the V-Carb, but still, that might not be entirely safe with the times being as close as they are and drivers who have probably used a used set of tyre. These times can certainly start tumbling here, Kotkaz, with Dennis Lanrock now starting his lap in the McLaren, and you still have the likes of Alessandro Finn setting their laps as he's heading into the middle sector, and he's up by half a second already, so that just shows how much of improvement there is, and he's still got plenty of time to find on this lap heading into this final sector, because of course he made those mistakes through the hairpin and the final corner.
Yeah, nobody nobody from Dennis Langrock down will be happy with their laps. 1:31 is not ideal for any of these drivers, especially with Moreira and Kokani just touching into the 129's. Finn keeping the penultimate corner nice and clean, as he should do. Now he's got one more corner to go. Can he keep that nice and clean? Indeed he can, and this should be a good lap from Alessandro Finn. That should secure his safety. It's a 1:30.0. That puts him into third place. Marvin Gomes improving by 7/10 in the meantime, and he should be slicing that time. Absolutely, well, I mean, he's going to be cutting it down as he goes into ninth place. So, I mean, he's 4/10 ahead of Pasquale. He's 4/10 off safety, but it doesn't feel like enough at the moment. You feel as though drivers will improve. Dennis Langrock goes up into fourth, proving my point there. Dennis Langrock slots his way into that fourth position. Pau Villegas now, and, well, Ironut's going to come into the pits, but Pau Villegas, he is going to take his opportunity to get out of the 130s around the final corner, putting the power down. What sort of time is Villegas going to find? It's going to be a 1:30.3, which is not safe. So the times are absolutely just, they're getting destroyed here. Because 1:30.3 would have had you just a couple of moments ago in about P8, P9 at the moment. Pau Villegas isn't even safe, nor is Marvin Gomes now as Lewis Jones goes up into 1:30.198. So these times, they're not safe. I mean, Maxi Leclerc doesn't even think a 1:29.997 is safe. And as he goes for another lap, I believe. I didn't see him come across the line anyway. And no, he did come across the line with that 29. So he's the third driver into the 29s, and surely the top three are safe now. 1:29 pretty much guarantees you safety into Q3, I believe, although just 3/10 off that can see you out of qualifying with 4 minutes left to go. Times will continue to come down, so it's not over yet for any of these drivers. And I think, actually, now that I've had a reflection, Moreira, Kokani and Leclerc might have to come out again. Kokani disagrees, though, as he retires from the session. And the Thomas Enger sim racing driver could be pushing it pretty close.
He certainly could. I reckon that top three, though, will just be safe. I don't see many drivers in that bottom five getting close enough to those 29.9s. I see them getting into maybe the 0.1s, but yeah, I don't see a 0.9 on a 0.9 or a 0.8 on the cards. And am I seeing that right? Go on board with. That's an Alpine of Pasquale. The safety car's on the circuit. Well, it is for me anyway.
It's not for me.
Oh, well, it is for me. The safety car is on the track. Bernd Mailander has decided to take part in qualifying and start doing some laps on my screen. That's very odd. And the fact it's only happened to me as well makes it even stranger. Maximilian Leclerc and Nando Moreira did decide to retire from the session, obviously taking my advice that nobody will get close to that lap, as Pasquale is now heading through the first sector. What's going to be the first sector split? Currently on a 1:30.6. This will put him onto a 0.5 so far if we keep up this trend of the first sector. He's up by a 10th in that first part of the lap. We know he struggles with some of these corners, obviously not running a lot of downforce on that LP. Now as he heads into turn 8, he tries taking it flat but has to drop down to 4th gear, really struggling to get the front of the car to bite. Is Pasquale lucky to get through into Q2, so if he's able to get into Q3, that'll be a brilliant job from the Alpine driver, but he's only up by a 10th of a second, so it just shows the struggles that he's having, and this is the last attempt he will have in this session. So now heading out of turn 12, you're going to get the use all the battery you can and use the DRS. Once you hit that DRS line, then use a bit more battery as you head down this long straight. I think it's over a kilometre long is this straight. Down the back straight you go into the hard braking zone of the hairpin. Make sure you don't catch it out, and Pasquale gets that a lot better than we saw him do last time around. He actually hits the apex this time as we head into the final corner. Take a lovely amount of inside apex curb. DRS open for Pasquale. What's it going to be as he crosses the line? And it is good enough for 5th place. It just shows how little downforce he is running. He found a total of 5/10 of a second in that final sector. So it could downforce be key heading into the low downforce be key heading into the race. Because if you like Pascal, you're really going to find an abundance of time on everybody else down that back straight.
Yeah, and he actually ended up with the fastest of all Sector 3. So, yeah, he's certainly prepared for that final sector more than anybody else. It can also benefit him in the race with his race pace as well, because some of these drivers, they will be preparing for the corners, but then they won't quite have the overspeed enough down the straights to make those overtakes and to find their way forward. So if they don't start from pole position, well, they might be absolutely screwed. Ironut will be the next one to cross on a lap. And I think it's an interesting point to raise, that straight line speed down here, because, I mean, it will be those overtakes. They do get a double dose of DRS before, I believe, it's turn 12, before it's turn 12 and after turn 13. So they really don't have much time where they're not going completely full throttle in that little portion of the circuit. Ironut trying to keep it clean. You've got to have a wide entry and a wide exit, just clipping the curb, as Ironut does that pretty well. And now he's got one more corner to go. Does the RB, just keeping it on the track pretty safely in the end. And Ironut heading up 130.025. So at the moment, Moreira, Kokeni and Leclerc, they are in the lead. But if they get enough drivers on good laps, they could be in trouble. Mr. Pike is going to come around the final couple of corners. He'll be the first one for the checkered flag to wave for him, on circuit at least. And he's going to come across the line with a 130.299. It's not enough. And Mr. Pike retires. Mr. Pike is out of the session. Pasquale Ranieri is the one who retires from the session. Alessandro Finn has improved in the meantime. He will be taking that provisional pole position. The FVR driver, he struggled at the start of Q2, but he's really found his footing, and he's beaten out Nando Moreira to that provisional pole. Thomas Laminen across the line, 130.162, not improving on his time, and Mikolaj Nowicki going up into 5th place. So times are coming down here as Marvin Gome is going to be the second driver to retire from the session. It's now down to Miska Haikula, who's retired from his lap, who's invalidated on his lap, and Pau Villegas and Lewis Jones as well. Lewis Jones, who's just behind Villegas. So we're going to watch on board with the RB as he desperately tries to set a lap. If one of them improves enough, then it's Thomas Laminen out of the session. We'll see what Villegas has as he crosses the line. It's enough. So now it's Pasquale Ranieri who could be in danger as Lewis Jones is across the final corner. And surely it's Ranieri out in... Oh, it's not quite. Because Lewis Jones absolutely ruined his final sector. He was up by 1/10.5. And he ended up improving by just under 1/10. He would have been very safe had he kept up that improvement. But as it is, the NLR driver is out of the session. So Pasquale Ranieri, it was squeaky bum time, but he's come out the other side, the victor, and both NLRs out in Q2.
Yeah, disappointment for NLR there, and also for TF10 as well. Thomas Laminen getting booted out of qualifying in not the way they would have wanted that to happen, and Lucas Baesner nearly out as well. Just look how close that field is between that top 12, just over 0.3 of a second separating Alessandro Finn all the way down to Thomas Laminen there. So that just shows how fine margins it was in this session, and Lewis Jones unfortunately was one of the drivers that lost out in that final sector, and just one slight error, one slight twinge of the rear of the car was the difference between him going through into Q3 and getting eliminated in Q2. But for Alessandro Finn and Maximilian Lookup, they keep on FVR's fine form. Both the EC8 cars as well are also through to Q3. So the two championship leading teams have both cars through to the next part of qualifying. And the rest of your Q2 goes as follows. Alessandro Finn, Nando Moreira, Kokeni, Lookup, Villegas, Nowicki, Ironut, Langrock, Baesner, and Ranieri are the drivers through. And then the drivers eliminated. Jones, Laminen, Golm, Mr. Pike, and Hirkela, unfortunately, all being eliminated from qualifying there. But we're now heading into this top 10 shootout. The last ditch for pole position. It is dry so far, so no threat of rain looming as it stands. And Fernando Moreira and Alessandro Finn, the two drivers to top the first and second part of qualifying. We shall see who will come out on top. Of course, we know Lookup, the China merchant, as FVR call him, could still play a part in this qualifying session. Has he just held back a bit of pace to force his rivals into a false sense of security? We'll have to wait and see. And of course, Tamas Kokeni, but Thomas Eng Sim, they have taken pole at Abu Dhabi and were on pole until Flores Fires was unfortunately disqualified for being eligible in Portimao. So they do technically have both the fastest times in both races so far this season. But will Kilkenny be able to make that 3 poles from 3 races? We'll have to wait and see, as we're now into Q3, and the first driver to be setting a lap time as it currently stands will be the 2 FVR drivers of Lookhart and Finn, but Finn just in front of his teammate as it currently stands.
Yeah, with both of them wanting to just set this tone for this session, with maybe another lap in the 129s. 129.7 I think will be the target for this first push lap. You want to just keep improving and improving throughout the session, and the 2 FVR drivers will be coming up against the 2, well, they'll be coming up against Nando Moreira and Tamas Kilkenny most likely for this pole position. I will be backing Maxi to take pole position at what is allegedly his home race, because he's changed his nationality on the game, the Chinese Grand Prix. I'll be backing him to take pole position here. But, well, I mean, we've seen Nando Moreira throw a surprise in there. We know how quick Kilkenny can be, even if he's not demonstrated it so far in this session. And, well, Leclerc will be the second one to start and finish his lap with his teammate Alessandro Finn just in front. Reminder that you can't get slipstream off your teammate, or anybody else for that matter, in qualifying, because of the fact that there is ghosting on. So this isn't a strategy from these two to try and improve. It is simply just both of them going in. Well, it's just both of them going very eagerly, the first 2 drivers into qualifying. Finn coming through the first couple of corners now, trying to keep tight to the apex as much as he can. He's done that very, very well. They've both demonstrated incredible pace so far. Alessandro Finn, with this being at least his debut in this season. I'm not sure about previous season. Couldn't find any stats for it. But Alessandro Finn being the quickest in the first sector. 1 out of 1. As, well, Leclerc, Ranieri and Moreira will have come across the split time now. But we'll continue to watch on board with Finn, shall we? As we watch the first driver to set a time continue to set his time. As I said, 129.7 is what I reckon the FVR drivers will be aiming for. And Alessandro Finn, that is that will be the target. He's got 2 corners to go now, 1 DRS straight. And then like a little teeny bit of a DRS straight on the main straight. But this is the main area where they're going to gain time. This is where, well, this is what decided whether Pasquale Ranieri would make it through to Q3 or would fall out in Q2. As it was, he managed to edge out Lewis Jones into the 3rd section of qualifying. Finn around the final corner. And he's gone into the 129.9s. Maxi, 129.8. What can Nando do? 129.7. And Pasquale Ranieri goes even quicker. Where on earth has that come from the Alpine? He goes up into the provisional pole position. Does Pasquale Ranieri, and the man who scraped through Q2 is now the pace setter in Q3 with that lap that I said he would be targeting. That 129.7. He's 100th ahead of Nando Moreira. And, well, he's over a 10th ahead of Maxi. So the FVR drivers will now know that the pressure is on them for that next run. They'll probably only get 1 more proper run as Langrock goes in with a lap that's not good enough for Q3. It would have been good enough probably for a banker lap in Q1 maybe. But a 130.8 is not what he needs. Pau Villegas, 129.9. His teammate Ironut with a 130.2. We've got Beisner in the first, or Beisner and Kilkenny in the 2nd sector, and Nowicki, he's also in the 2nd sector. So more times to be set. 2 of the quickest drivers in qualifying regularly, and Lucas Beisner, who, well, he surprised us all with that lap in Q2, just right at the start, throwing us off guard. Pasquale apparently with no practice, he is getting into it, and he is getting into it in style.
He certainly is. Are we sure he's the one who didn't hold back in the first 2 parts of qualifying to just throw off his rivals? Because that's a 3/10 improvement from what we saw at the end of Q2. And to find that time in the space of a single lap, absolutely monumental. We know we've seen him struggle in that middle sector, so has he just hooked it up this time around and that straight line speed helping him out massively? Kilkenny now up to the line. He goes up into 3rd. Another driver into the 0.7s. Lucas Beisner for TF10. He's into the 0.9s. Now we look at Nowicki, the other Thomas Engsim. He goes into the 0.9s as well. Look at that. The top 8 separated by 0.2 of a second. That's how close it is here in China, a circuit where you would expect the times to have a greater difference to everybody else just due to the nature of these corners. But the top 8 separated by 0.2, with Pasquale currently leading the times by 100th of a second. And just look how close it is from Alessandro Finn all the way down to Villegas. Just over half a tenth, separating 5th to 8th. So any mere find of time, be that 200ths of a second, can incredibly increase your chance of promoting yourself at least up one place in this qualifying session. But most drivers are now coming into the pit lane. They're going to be setting up for their last dashes of this qualifying. Who will take pole position? That is going to be the key question. At the minute, it is Pasquale who has the upper hand. He has the advantage over everybody else. His job, just try and improve on that lap time. Everybody else has a bit more pressure on their shoulders because they have to hunt his lap time down. So this is going to be an oh so crucial final part of qualifying. Will Moreira take pole position after winning last time out in Abu Dhabi? It'll be an improvement from where he started last time. Of course, second on the grid in Abu Dhabi. It'll be first in China. That could be an improvement for him. But as we said, pole hasn't won any of the races so far this season. So it's going to be interesting to see. And for Kokeni as well, he's going to try and keep Thomas Engsim's hopes alive of another pole position here in China. And we'll have to wait and see, because there's still anybody's game. And for Ironut and Dennis Langrock, they were on used tyres. So they are still drivers we haven't seen a competitive lap time from yet. And they could throw their bids for pole position as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me the fact that they are both on those worn tyres. However, it does surprise me that Ironut was still able to put in a 1:30.2. That is scary if he was indeed on those worn tyres with 4 minutes left on the clock. Because those tyres will lose you so much time, as Dennis Langrock can attest to. He's an entire second off of Maxi Leclerc. He's a second and a 10th off of his teammate Nando Moreira in first. Pasquale Ranieri will be the first one to set his final time as he comes out of the pits. The number 54 Alpine is just heading through the first sector. And, well, it was a surprise, really, to see Pasquale up there. I think that's an understatement. Because of the way that he'd scraped through, the fact that he suddenly threw in a 1:29.7, the quickest lap that we've seen in all of the sessions so far, it was something sensational. And his teammate as well, dropping out, I believe he was P14, was Marvin Gomes. So, a lap that came out of nowhere, really. But, yeah, in the end, 1:29.744, that could be his pole position. But not quite yet. It's not confirmed. And if Nando Moreira can get any tiny gain, if any of them really can get any tiny gain, they will be threatening the Alpine up top, as both the FER drivers and Ironut are now out on their laps. They could go for a double lap. So they go for a lap just to burn the fuel, and then they go on an actual push lap itself. But you're running the risk of wearing those tyres down. And at the moment, we've seen that the tyre degradation, it can affect you quite significantly. For example, Dennis Langrock, well, he was an entire second off everybody else in the same track conditions purely because he'd gone for one lap already. We will have to wait and see. With 2 minutes 21 on the clock, it was 2:22 as I began that statement. And everybody has headed out of the pits, apart from Pasquale Ranieri, who's gone in.
Yeah, that is now Pasquale. All done for qualifying here. 29.744 is the target time. That is the lap you have to beat, even if it's just by 1,000th of a second. That is all you need to do if nobody else around you is able to do so. So, as we head with Ironut, no, it won't be Ironut, sorry, it will be Lookout to start the final runs of qualifying. No retries, no redos this time around. No second chances. This has to be the lap of all laps if you want to try and beat Pasquale to pole position. So for Lookhart, through turns 1 and now into 2. Try to get that throttle down as nice and early as you can. Nicely done there from Maximilian Lookhart as he's heading into turns 3 and then heading into the braking zone of turn 4. He's up by half a tenth in that first sector. This won't improve my position, but it's a good base to start off and try and improve through the middle sector. So as he heads through turn 7, this will then lead him into turns 8, and then it will lead him into the double left of 9 and 10. Be careful to pick the throttle back up. Don't lose the rear end on the exit of 10. He hasn't done so. Really nicely kept within track limits as well. So for Lookhart, he's up by a tenth of a second at the moment. Still won't be enough for pole, but again, still plenty of time to find a bit of a slide as he heads through turn 12. But this could still be good enough. It's all about this run now. Down the back straight and into the hairpin. This next corner is the make or break for your lap. If you make a mistake here, that is your run over. You won't be able to improve enough to beat Pasquale. So as he now heads into the final corner, braking at 100 meters, down into third gear, doesn't overshoot that at the slightest. A few twitches off the rear end. So for the China Merchant, as FVR say, through the final corner, too much inside curve, and Lookhart, his lap is over. He stays 4th. That is his run done. Iona now heading up to the line. The V-Carb, he's down by 7 tenths in the middle sector. He does not improve on his lap time. Looking over to Alessandro Finn. He topped Q2. He now tops Q3. That is a big statement lap. He throws the gauntlet down to everybody behind. Dennis Langrock is next to cross the line. Of course, he was on the scrub set in the start of this session, sorry. So DRS open for Langrock. Where will this put him? He goes to 4th. He joins his teammate on the second row. That's Nowicki up to 6th. We now turn our attention to Kokeni. He stays in 5th. So no Thomas Engsim pole position. But let's now look at Nando Moreira, who's up by nearly 2 tenths of a second. What a lap this could be from Nando Moreira. He took pole position. Not pole position. He took the race win in Abu Dhabi. Can he take pole position the next race after in China? Yes, he can. And what a lap to do so. A 29.525. Nando Moreira sending out a statement. It's not a one-off special in Abu Dhabi. I can constantly perform like this. And here in China, Nando Moreira is the man who takes pole position from Alessandro Finn, who thought he had done enough. But Moreira with the lap of all laps, and that has to be one of the best laps we've seen all season, because that gap, 2 tenths of a second with all that pressure. Wow, Nando Moreira, the comeback kid again, strikes and take a bow in your papaya McLaren.
There's absolutely no way that, last week we saw that he was applying the pressure to the TES drivers, but this week, with no pressure, and no pressure from anybody else, and no pressure behind 129.5 is an absolutely insane lap. The only time pressure that he really had was the clock, but look at how close that grid was. It had Nando Moreira not improved, he would have still been in the 129.7s. He would have been one of, is that 8 drivers? Or it's 7 drivers, Mikolai Nowicki just outside, who would have been in the 129.7. So probably the closest grid that we've had so far this season. Probably the most impressive lap that we've had this season. And this is something absolutely special. Because, well, Moreira with an incredible lap. We thought that Finn, Villegas, Pasquale Ranieri, well, we saw all those laps fly in and we thought, wow, that is incredible. Nando Moreira has just chopped 2 tenths off what we thought was going to be the best lap of the day. And the Portuguese driver will take pole position for TTM. Confirmation then of your top 10 for this race. It's Nando Moreira taking that pole. And Alessandro Finn sitting in that second place on his debut. But he's just under 2 tenths behind. Just above 2 tenths behind is Pau Villegas, also on his debut for ET8, with Pasquale Ranieri in 4th place. Lucas Beisner in 5th. Dennis Langrock in 6th. Both the TES drivers, Tamas Kokeni and Mikolai Nowicki in 7th and 8th, with Maxi Leclerc in 9th and Ionut rounding out that top 10. But very, very disappointing stuff there from the Thomas Enger Sim Racing team. What on earth happened to them?
Yeah, just haven't really had any pace all throughout this qualifying session of Thomas Enger Sim. So they're really on the back foot heading into this race, unless they focus more maybe on race orientated, save the tyres in the Grand Prix, make sure you don't push too hard on them, and focus on just an overall longevity of a consistent pace in the main Grand Prix. But in qualifying, not the pace they would have wanted, and unfortunately, they haven't been able to keep up their streak of at least getting the fastest time in Q3 over the past 3 races. So that comes to an end. The point goes to TTM, who, of course, with Nando Moreira, as we called him last week, the comeback kid, has really had that momentum on his side and really does lay down the statements instantly. So we're now heading into the race session. So for TTM, it's another dream evening for them so far. Both their cars into Q3. Of course, Langrock and it went Langrock last week, but they weren't able to get both cars into Q3 last week. But they are here this week, and that could be something they really need when it comes to the championship.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's going to start to be a little bit more of a switch towards the championship focus as we head further on through this season. I mean, so far we're only on round 3 of 10, but once we pass this, probably it's about the third of the way through the season. That is when drivers are going to start to think of the championship, which is completely fair enough. I mean, why wouldn't you think of the championship at this point in time? But yeah, FVR and ETA matching each other at the top of this championship. Thomas Enger, despite that qualifying pace, find themselves down in joint 7th with ABS. They're actually behind Zenith, who left. So not a good start for them. But yeah, they've been trying to keep on the quali pace, and they're trying to base everything around their quali pace, but then they just have nothing in the races. We'll see today the strategy difference between the quali going well and the qualifying going poorly. But there is one thing that is for certain, and that is that Nando Moreira will not be threatened by a Thomas Enger Sim Racing driver into turn 1. Instead, he'll have Alessandro Finn on his inside. He'll have Maxi Leclerc trying to fight his way forward as well. So Nando will be the one soaking up all the pressure rather than applying the pressure. He will be feeling it today, as opposed to last time out where, well, he didn't feel it because, as we said, he was the comeback kid. There was no expectations on him. But this weekend, it's all on his shoulders. And by taking pole position, he's just applied more pressure to himself. But yeah, we are heading now into the session. Well, we will be heading into the session in a few minutes' time. Hopefully, Max will be there on time as well, because more technical issues. This is 4 weeks in a row if you include the qualifiers as well. So this is it's really not destined to go very well for us. But we'll fight our way forward. I've tried to get now confirmation of the grid. As you just saw, the 3 sessions of qualifying come to a close, and it was all topped by Nando Moreira in that TTM car. He beats his teammate out by quite a margin. Mr. Pike and Pole, well, I mean, somebody didn't tune into the last few minutes, the last little bit of that session. Because disappointed to tell you, he's indeed not on pole. He didn't get knocked out, though, like last time in Q1. He just about scraped out of it. His teammate, though, did. Robert Dinilescu. He was out in Q1, as were the 2 Haskars. I'll have a look now to see if either of the ATX drivers have turned up. It doesn't appear that they have. So we'll try and get in touch with the Artifact Sim Racing drivers to see if they are going to be able to join at any point. They haven't said anything about TEE since the end of October, at least on their social medias. So we'll see whether they are here or not. as we come now to the race session. There's no sign of them so far, and well, we're having more technical issues as now you can't hear me and you can't hear Max in the Discord either. As Max just leaves, he's going to restart as soon as he possibly can. Nando is also restarting his game because I think there's a couple of people in general who've got issues. With Max being one and Nando with another. So, the fact that he's been able to take that pole position with the sound problems all qualifying is something pretty impressive in the end from Nando Moreira. But he'll be restarting his game and he'll be joining us some point soon. And we can't start without Nando, can we? Especially as he's our current pole sitter. He's currently still in the session, but I'm sure that well, he's going to have some problems. He does leave the session. No, he doesn't. Nando Moreira has readied up as someone else has left the session. Not sure who that was. I'll try and work it out now. We may well have Max back. We've at least got him back in the Discord call. So, Max, are you there? Can we hear you?
Yes, I'm back. I'm terribly sorry, everyone, for the technical issues I have been having. As soon as the race got underway, all my audio on my PC decided to turn very bass boosted, and it was like, Cockaz, you were an alien speaking. So, yeah, my PC not being very friendly with me today. I'm very sorry, everybody, that this is the second time I have had to not be here at a certain point in the stream, but hopefully, touch wood, we are all good for the rest of the evening, and with the race to go, it should be an eventful one. What were you talking about while I was gone, Cockaz? So we could discuss that further.
Oh, I was just giving a review of the qualifying session that we've just had happen, and the fact that well, we haven't had either of the ATX drivers turn up this evening, so I think we will be getting going with 18. But just also talking about the fact that Nando Moreira, he also, I believe, had the same problems as you, the same audio problems. He was still able to hook up a pole position.
Yeah, if he did have audio problems for the whole of qualifying, imagine what he could have done without the audio issues. If that is what happens when you're slightly distracted, your head isn't always in the game, and you're somewhat second guessing how the car sounds and what it will do. Then, as you respond, say on the power, then imagine we could have maybe seen a 0.4, even a 0.3, maybe from Nando Moreira in that session if it was throughout qualifying. But I'm now back in the lobby, and yes, as you rightly mentioned, none of the ATX drivers in for the race. So unfortunate for ATX to be missing out on some crucial points. If I quickly look at the standings, of course we do have FVR and ETA joint on points at the top, and that will be something to really look out for, because FVR, they are lining up in second and then down in 8th place, and then for ETA I think it's 3rd and then a 6th start for them guys. So ETA at the minute do have the upper hand. We'll have to wait and see, though, how this race goes, because China, it is easy to overtake, not only into the turn 15 hairpin, but also into turn 1 as well with the DRS, of course, double dosage. That could also throw up a surprise. So we're loading into the race session now, and unlike last week, Cockaz, we're both in the session, so this should be all good.
Right, and unlike the week before, eh?
Yes, as well.
I was saying this as you had left. It was we seem to be destined to constantly have issues, but tonight the issues have been minimal. They've been getting smaller as I was actually able to get in on this occasion to the lobby straight away. I didn't actually leave on this occasion, which may have been the difference. But yeah, now we are heading into the session, and I've just cut from the track map to the conditions. It's wet here in China.
This now throws everything up into the air. Rain here, and it was actually meant to rain in qualifying. I did see Pasquale say in the chat saying rain isn't coming in this session, guys. So that was just his interpret of what happened in qualifying. But intermediate conditions here in China. Of course, the threat of rain always looming over this circuit in real life and also on the game. So Fernando Moreira and Alessandro Finn, drivers so fast in the dry, will they be able to translate that pace into these wet and rainy conditions? Of course, you could still use somewhat of a dry setup, maybe a few tweaks to the suspension and maybe the toe on the front and rear of the car. Downforce might be slightly higher as well, just to make sure you don't have any unnecessary sliding. But overall, the setup can be somewhat the same. Not too many changes need to be made. And this is what makes or breaks a driver's evening. This is what shows the good drivers from the average drivers. And this is the great leveler. So if you're someone down at the back of the field, even if you're Robert Denilescu, who's starting last, with this being the great leveler, we can see him maybe make his way up through the field. We'll have to wait and see, though, of course. I was going to run through tyre strategy, but everybody's going to be on the intermediates. There will be a pit stop for a fresh set if it doesn't stop raining, but this is going to be a very entertaining Grand Prix, and really, it's anyone's guess who's going to win, because we would have thought maybe Nando Moreira if it was dry, but now it's raining. We have no idea who is going to come out on top.
I mean, it was threatening to do this throughout qualifying, where it was completely overcast. But yeah, it's the heavens have opened. They haven't opened enough for wet compounder tyres, but we're on intermediate conditions, so it's near enough for me. I think it's going to come down to who's naturally the best at China and who's naturally the best at China in this lobby. Well, it's the China Merchant, of course, Maximilian Leclerc. That's who I'm going to back for the race victory. You may have a different opinion. I'm going to give you the stage now. Tell me, who's going to take this victory?
Oh, it's difficult, it's difficult. I'm going to go for, if I quickly look at the race director, I'm going to go for Lucas Beijner. I think he might throw a surprise and go win this race. But Kaz, we'll get the 5 red lights, so over to you.
It's lights. And it's action. Here in China, Alessandro Finn gets off well on the line. Everyone's off very tentatively. Nando Moreira moves across to cover off Finn. But Finn is to the inside of turn number 1. He takes the lead. Nando Moreira runs wide and through goes Ranieri. Through goes Villegas. They're 4 wide heading through turn 1. And they're going to be 4 wide again as they go through turn 2. That's Nando Moreira trying to send it to the inside. Running himself off the track. This is absolute carnage early on. Moreira falling down the order. He's down to 7th. Could be down to 8th as he's side by side with Lewis Jones, Alessandro Finn and Dennis Langrock. Side by side for the lead of the race. Langrock around the outside. Finn to the inside. And it looks like Finn has got the edge in that battle. Langrock, though, with the exits, will take the lead of the race. So it's a TTM driver on top, but it's the wrong one. Tamas Kukani leads Thomas Laminen in a battle for P9. As sending it to the inside is Laminen trying to fight back. But these drivers getting their elbows out early on. They're fighting so incredibly hard. And Kukani still continuing to fight with Laminen as they head now through Sector 2. As drivers going wide in the background. Drivers going wide on the other side as that's Ironut trying to make it 4 wide. Sending it. Huge sends from some of these drivers. And Ironut and Miska Heikler literally sliding through turn number 11. Heikler comes out on top. The 2 Haas cars behind them are going for a battle. Ardinatux beating out Onai Vega. But an incredible start to this race. And Dennis Langrock will lead it.
Dennis Langrock leads from a chaotic opening lap here in China. And look at that! Nowicki to the inside of Villegas, as we now see Lewis Jones to the inside of Moreira as well. Luckily for the V-Carb, he beats out the Aston Martin on the drag race up into the final corner. Alessandro Finn's already dropped a second to Pasquale Ranieri in front. And now Pasquale's going for the move on Dennis Langrock. This is for the race lead. It's Pasquale, who we thought wasn't even close to pole position in qualifying. He lined up 4th on the grid, and Dennis Langrock, who started all the way down in 6th place. It was a dream. Turn 1 for Lanrock. He looked to the inside line. He was able to get those moves done. Now we have Nowicki versus Moreira. Both of the TTM drivers having to get their elbows out. One defending, one attacking. And Moreira gets past the Aston Martin, who's now looking for a send into the right-hand or return 6. Further up, Alessandro Finn going deep into turn 6. This is allowing Baszler to try swoop round the outside through turn 7. It could look for a switchback opportunity into turn 8, but no, just not close enough. Alessandro Finlow really struggling in these opening stages. The track, it's not really too wet for those intermediates. It's still a bit greasy though, and they are needed, but this track could certainly dry up if the rain does somewhat decrease within the next few laps. So, late on the brakes once again, Finn very, very deep into turn 11, and that's really going to affect his momentum all the way down this back straight. Lanrock been able to break 8 tenths to Pasquale behind, so that's really what he would have wanted to do. And Nando Moreira now looking all over the back of Viegas as we're heading down into the hairpin once more. And Viegas now going for a move on Lucas Baszler, who might try and attack his best form of defense on Alessandro Finn. Finn goes deep into the hairpin. He's going to box in Viegas, and here comes Lucas Baszler on the outside line. Is he going to be able to pull it off? No, he backs out once again. But the top 3 stay as they were at the end of this lap, as they were on the start of it. Lanrock from Pasquale, Alessandro Finn, Baszler, and Viegas round out your top 5.
The main difference being, of course, that Alessandro Finn is massively off of Pasquale Ranieri. 1.8 seconds is a huge gap to hold, as there's more battling going on for that P number 3. Villegas and Bajsner are side by side for P4, as, well, I think it was Villegas trying to push Finn for that P3 slot, and he just left the door open for the Red Bull to come back through. There could be further fighting to the outside, maybe not, as, well, they're all looking to shape up moves. They're all looking to be really aggressive, and Villegas with a huge slide. This could open the door for the TTM driver, Nando Moreira, to the inside, and he retakes that P5. Looking to fight back is the McLaren, but Villegas isn't going to make it that easy. He's to the outside. Moreira sending it to the inside, just backing out of that move. The TTM driver just staying out of it for the time being, because he wants to make it a little bit, well, he wants to make that gap up, but he doesn't need to do it quite yet. But if he wanted any chance of a race victory, well, that's almost out the window. 2.8 seconds between Ranieri and Alessandro Finn in second and third, and he's going to need his teammate to do him a solid if he wants any chance of being in this top 2 in this race. But Lanrock 0.9 seconds ahead of Pasquale Ranieri now. Moreira pushing to the inside of Villegas. Villegas tried to cover it off, and Moreira said no thank you. He goes to the inside, he backs out, but there goes Villegas. It's a huge send from the ET8 driver. He takes the position. It wasn't without controversy or danger, and he loses the position once again to Finn outside of the final corner. But interesting send there from Villegas. That didn't quite pay off, as now Bajsner is alongside him. He's been boxed in by Finn and by, by Bajsner, and it's going to be 4 wide once again as Nowicki tries to get involved. Lewis Jones goes through on Nowicki, on Moreira, and this is absolute carnage. He could get past Villegas as well, as there's another battle for P3, Bajsner and Finn. Bajsner comes out on top. Jones could come out on top on Villegas. Villegas has the try position, but Jones is going to try to squeeze to the inside. Villegas has the exit, and he's just able to take that position as Moreira looks to the inside of Lewis Jones. Could make this move stick. It's 2x2 with Laminen and Nowicki behind, and they're still side by side as Lewis Jones has backed out of that move. Moreira though, and Laminen and Nowicki, none of them have. And Moreira, well, I mean, he's held it in there too much, and he is having an absolute horror race here on lap 4. He's dropped down from pole position to P9. It could be P10. With Tamash Kokani on the inside. Indeed, it is. It could be P11 with Maxi Leclerc looking to the inside. He does back out of it in the end, does the Williams driver. But absolute carnage early on. And in the meantime, 5 seconds between third place Bajsner and, Pasquale Ranieri in second place. They have lost so much time to the top 2. And now it's Lanrock and Ranieri's race to lose.
It certainly is, and that all started from Vinales going for a move after being caught out on the brakes. He missed these braking points. I had to go for the move to take avoiding action of Finn. And here he comes, trying to go around the outside of Alessandro Finn, but it's not worked. And this might now allow Lewis Jones to go for a move on Viliagas, but no, still not being able to get the move done. Heading through the final corner. This is where we saw them go 4 wide into turn 1 last time around, but that won't happen here once again on lap 5 now of 28, but Lewis Jones looking to the outside line, not able to put it off, just cuts back in front of Thomas Laminen. And Nando Moreira fell all the way down to the back of this train, and that was because he was just forced onto the grass ever so slightly by Lewis Jones. He's under pressure from Maxi Lookhart as they're now side by side on the exit of turn 2, and luckily for Moreira, he is able to stay in front for now another send once again here from Viliagas, and he's able to get through this time around. Alessandro Finn going deep on the brakes, opens the door for the V-carb, and there we go, straight through goes Paul Viliagas, and this is now going to allow Lewis Jones to maybe have a look up the inside. That was very brave from Lewis. Saw the overspeed that he had, saw a very small gap, but wasn't able to pull that. But it was a very risky and brave move. Just shows that Lewis Jones really does want to get stuck into this Grand Prix. That gap between the top 2 and Lucas Baesner now up to 5.5 seconds. So really a safety car is needed if the rest of the field want to catch up to that top 2. But for Dennis Landrock, he really is controlling that pace up in front. It's now 1.1 between him and Pasquale Ranieri as they're now heading out of turn 12. Everyone following the slipstream of Paul Viliagas. As now we're heading down into the hairpin. Finn using the battery. He's trying to go to the inside line. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? Lewis Jones now to his outside. Nearly into the side of Viliagas and into the side of Viliagas. Finn. Contact between him and Lewis Jones as well, as he's got the exit, does the Ferrari on the outside line, the better line to be on in these conditions. He moves himself up into 5th, but now might be on the back foot. He won't have the momentum that the Williams has down into turn 1. Finn getting closer and closer, looking to the inside line this time around. Lewis Jones though going to try, hold it round the outside for the Argos, makes a mistake. We're going to see 3 wide into turn 2. We like seeing more than 3 cars wide into these first 2 corners, it seems, here this evening, and there's still 3 wide heading through turn 2. Finn drops down behind Laminen, and here comes Lewis Jones on the outside of Viliagas. It'll be the inside for turn 6, but Paul gets the move done before the braking zone. Here comes Laminen as well on not only Viliagas but looking at Lewis Jones as well. It's 2x2 Noah's Ark-esque heading out of turn 6. Alessandro Finn falling down the order after contact. Lewis Jones moves himself up into 4th place, but that's cost him 2.6 seconds to Lucas Baesner behind. Moreira was able to get past Kokeni. He's now going to try and look at Nowicki. Kokeni makes a slide. That's going to allow Lookout to try and maybe get a move done through turns 9 and 10. Not able to do so. And it's all going to calm back down through turn 11 and 12. But wow, drivers going for moves everywhere as Nowicki trying to get past Viliagas as quickly as he possibly can to try and stop the hard-charging Nando Moreira from overtaking behind.
Yeah, and he's certainly getting his elbows out so far in this race. And I mean, it is absolutely chaos. Well, it's absolute chaos for this battle for P3. Absolute chaos now for the battle for P4 as Lewis Jones and Lucas Baesner. There's a gap opened up there. And yeah, it seems to have settled down now, but people are still making moves. Speaking of, Leclerc to the inside of Kokeni. Nowicki and Villegas fighting for that P5 spot in the end, not making a difference. And Villegas with another mistake. They're just creeping in. It's those Inters that are really, really cooking Villegas at the moment. And Nowicki goes through. Moreira looks to go through as well. Into turn number 1. Paul Villegas squeezes him. And Moreira comes out on top in that one. Although Paul Villegas still keeping a tyre in there. Just about keeping on the track. Nando Moreira just about gives him the space. Big wobble on the exit for Moreira, but also for Villegas. And they're going to go up the hill now side by side. And the McLaren is going to send it to the inside line. He's on the wet line as Nowicki goes wide as well. So Moreira gets past 1. He's not quite going to have the momentum to get past Nowicki as well. And Tamas Kokeni in the meantime, he's fighting away with Alessandro Finn for that 10th spot. Finn on the inside, Kokeni on the outside line. Some of this battling, some of this racecraft that we've seen so far is, well, it's impressive. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but it's all certainly impressive. Tamas Kokeni and Alessandro Finn putting on an absolute spectacle for this battle for P10. Alessandro Finn to the outside. Tamas Kokeni with the inside line, and with that P10 now is the Aston Martin, and now he's going to try and close that gap to get back into that slipstream of Maximilian Leclerc, who's going to pull to the inside line of Pau Villegas, and he's going to tuck back into said slipstream. Just closing. You can see where the dry line has been created on the outside. That is now where Maximilian Leclerc finds himself. Pau Villegas tries to squeeze him, and Max with the inside line. He could make this move. It's going to be incredibly tight. He's going to squeeze Villegas as much as he can. But Leclerc takes that position. Big wobble on the exit though. Villegas is going to open up a door. He's going to find his way back in. And Maximilian Leclerc just has to take off the track. And Leclerc just tucking back in the meantime. But it's absolute chaos in this race so far. The gaps are spreading out, but the battling is not stopping. Kokani and Finn still battling. This time for P11, as Dinalescu has found his way through those two in the meantime. And, well, it's hard to keep up with. I will say that Mr. Pike, in the meantime, keep an eye on him, because he's on the wet compound of tyre. It really does not look wet enough to go on those tyres at the moment. But who am I to talk? Because he hasn't lost out too badly, starting P14, dropping down to P15. And, well, we should see, although that is a big slide from the wet runner, we should see the Inters be the quicker tyre. But at the moment, Mr. Pike not looking too much slower.
No, he's not. He has lost a few places from where he was at the start of this Grand Prix. He was able to make up a few on those wets at first, but unfortunately, they've not come into play just yet. It does look like the rain is getting heavier, though, so he could be trying to hold out for that. And if that's able to happen, this could be a brilliant strategy from Mr. Pike, because those wets will surely make it to the end of this Grand Prix. So, as the racing's calmed down ever so slightly, Nando Moreira is still over the back on the wiki. He's 2.2 seconds behind Thomas Laminen, who is just behind Lewis Jones. So we have two battles going on here, one for fourth, one for sixth at this stage of the Grand Prix. Dennis Lamrock's extended that lead up at the top to 2 seconds. 4.4 is now the gap between Beisner and Pasquale, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Alpine's starting to struggle, maybe overheated those intermediate tyres, just like we've seen Villegas do in the V-Carb. He's really struggling. He's under pressure from Maximilian Leclerc behind Dinalescu. I did say maybe look out for Dinalescu to see if he can maybe make his way up the order. He certainly can. Moreira to the inside on the wiki. Little bit of contact made on corner entry. That's forced the Aston Martin all the way out wide. But the McLaren easily through as it is. Here comes Leclerc to the inside of Pau Villegas, and he is able to get by, but the V-Carb still trying to hold a tyre to that inside line. He is able to, and it's still a big slide on corner exit. And Maximilian Leclerc gets up into 8th place. Of course, that's a big battle for the championship. ET8 and FVR tied on points, and as it currently stands, FVR will actually extend in front of ET8 in the standings. So Pau Villegas and Iona really need to start putting their foot to the floor and start to hustle their cars a little bit more in this Grand Prix if they want to try beat FVR after this evening. But that gap further up, Lucas Beisner now has bring it down to 4 seconds. He's gained about a second over Pasquale in the last lap or so. So could we see Lucas Beisner get into that top two? He really has got some pace beneath him, does that Red Bull. And for TF10, it'll be a brilliant result that they do need. And he's currently now brought that gap down to 3.7. So it does seem Beisner's looked after those tyres in the clean air. And he certainly is one to look out for the rest of this race. Is in the background, Laminen nearly off the road, trying to pass Lewis Jones. He is able to, but nearly onto the grass. And that could have been an airplane crash for the pair of them heading into the hairpin. And that's TF10 now in third and fourth with Lewis Jones, unfortunately, dropping down a place and down into fifth.
Yeah, the fighting is chaos because, I mean, the drivers have split out now, so the actual fighting itself has slowed down. But when they're coming together on track, they just can't seem to keep it. They can't make boring overtakes, as Mr. Pike makes a boring overtake on Ionut. And Robert Dinalescu makes his way past Tamas Kokani. It's really not been the day for Thomas Engersim Racing as Kokani sends it to the inside. Now to the outside, squeezing Dinalescu right to the inside line. And on the corner exit, Tamas Kokani comes out on top. P10 is once again his. And he's fighting incredibly hard for it. He was fighting with Finn a couple of laps ago. He's now fighting with Dinalescu. What was that?
Look how heavy the rain has got.
I didn't even notice, to be fair, but it has. gotten very, very slippery. So we could be seeing drivers into the pits. Pasquale Ranieri is one who's certainly struggling with this grip. He's 2.3 seconds now behind Dennis Langerock. 3.1 behind Lucas Beissner in third, or sorry, 3.1 ahead of Lucas Beissner in third place. But you should see some drivers come into the pits. Pasquale really struggling on the grip on the exit of turn number 11. And the Alpine surely going to come into the pits in the next couple of laps.
Mr. Pike really might have just done a strategic masterclass here. He's already on those wets. And look at those conditions. It is monsoon weather out here in China. And Mr. Pike, he's gained 7/10 of a second on Marvin Golm over the course of 2 corners. That just shows how much of a grip difference there really is between those wets and the intermediates at this stage, and maybe why Lucas Beissner is just traversing these conditions better than Pasquale Ranieri and also Dennis Langerock in front as well. But that rain really is starting to chuck it down on this circuit here, and you can really see how much these drivers on the Inters are having to throw steering lock into the car just to get the car to respond to getting those front tyres in. But Mr. Pike, at the minute, not making too much progress. I don't know if he's just gone a bit too early on those wets, overheated them slightly, and now it's not giving him the run and the tread he would have wanted to keep moving forward in this Grand Prix. But now it's going to be surely drivers at some point coming in for the wet compounder tyres. Ironut really struggling. He's dropped 2 places within the past lap as he's now side by side with Odin of the 2 SCT boys down at the back of the field on their debut race. Not exactly what they would have wanted this season to start it off like this, but still side by side between Ironut and Odin as we're heading into the left-hander. Ironut just coming out on top on the inside there, but really is starting to get very tricky, and that dry line is really starting to fade away, and the wet line will certainly be forming very, very shortly. 3.2, now that gap up at the top, and for Pasquale, he's got 2.1 between him and Lucas Beissner behind. So, what do these drivers do? Do they stay out on these intermediates? Do they wait to that pit window and maybe switch to the wets then? Or even at that pit window, do they move to the extreme, to the intermediates once again? So here comes Lookhart to the outside of Nowicki. That's very brave to do on the outside line. And he's able to just pull that one off on the traction on the exit of the corner. Really nicely done from Maximilian Lookhart to move himself up into 7th place. He's really liking these conditions at the moment. A duck out of water, and Lookhart now under pressure from Nowicki again. He went wide through the final corner, as I was saying he was liking these conditions. And here comes Nowicki once more. He moves up into 7th, but Lookhart still trying to hold this one on the inside. Don't make contact, boys. That's the last thing you'll want to do. Ironut into the pit lane for ETA. He'll probably move to the extreme wets, but Nowicki able to hold on to 7th place after that original attack from Lookhart, and they're gaining on Nando Moreira, another driver struggling in these tricky conditions.
Yeah, a lot of them are starting to struggle, Pasquale being one of them, and Nando being another, where they are just really struggling. Ironut actually did come in for another set of intermediates, so maybe it's not as wet as they're making it look at the moment, although Mr. Pike closing in by 2 seconds in the last 2 laps. And he'll be applying the pressure to Marvin Golm. If those tyres haven't worn enough already because of the fact that he ran them in intermediate conditions. With those wets, they will wear a little bit more, but you can see now the grip difference as Golm really struggling on entry to every corner. And he's allowed Mr. Pike to have, well, an incredibly easy overtake in the end into P13. And yeah, you were right earlier in saying that Mr. Pike may have pulled off an absolute strategic masterclass. He may even take the lead of this race here, as we have drivers coming to the pits, and that is where new competitors can come to the fore. Mr. Pike being one of them, as Dennis Langerock has controlled the pace early on. We'll see if he comes into the pits on this lap, as it's absolutely hammering down on Langerock, and he continues on. Pasquale Ranieri continues on. Beissner continues on. They're all going to continue on here, I think. Oh, no, they're not. Watching Nando Moreira, he does come into the pits. It's now or never for the TTM driver who took that pole position. He really struggled. Well, did he take that pole position? I'm not... No, he didn't, did he? Because it was... he took that front row start even as... Did he start on pole position? I'm forgetting now. He did, okay, good. He's switched onto a new set of Inters. So maybe it's really not as bad as we think out there. Because Ironut and Nando both coming in for the intermediate tyres rather than the wets that Mr. Pike seems to have such a pace advantage on. He made his way past Marvin Gome on that last lap. He could be making his way past Alessandro Finn. So maybe race engineers are telling drivers that it's not that bad. As was there an issue somewhere?
No, we've just had lightning.
Whoa. I've not seen that on this game. I didn't see that here.
I saw that on Mr. Pike off board. It was just a massive flash on my screen of lightning. And that surely shows that the wet tyres will be better in these conditions. I did say it was monsoon-esque. I wasn't expecting the lightning to go with it. But, yeah, so the drivers on the intermediates are really going to struggle. I'm surprised by Moreira to come into the intermediates. I thought TTM would have been looking at Mr. Pike's progress and gone, get on those wet tyres. They are the ones you want to be on. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that with Dennis Langrock. Just look at the grip difference Mr. Pike has. Coming out of turn 12 over Alessandro Finn, it's just happened again. Another lightning strike on the circuit. You see the track just get brighter at certain points. And for Mr. Pike, all over the back of Alessandro Finn. He's going to try maybe look to this inside line. Yes, he is. Langrock is into the pit lane. So what will the race leader go on to? Mr. Pike, Alessandro Finn, Laminen in as well. What are these drivers going to go for? Is Langrock going to follow his teammate onto those inters? Yes, he is. What about Laminen? He is on to a set of the inters as well. So drivers thinking the intermediates are better. I just don't think that's the right call, and Mr. Pike now inherits the net race lead.
It's incredible, actually, the amount of drivers who are coming in onto those tyres. I can't see anybody in the pit lane, which is absolute chaos, by the way, switching onto the wets. But surely they've got to consider it at some point. Although maybe they're being told that it's going to ease off in the next few laps, but I cannot see that happening because it's only got worse so far this race. And Mr. Pike, well, his race has only gotten better. And the wet runner, the sole wet runner in this race, I mean, he started, where did he start? He started all the way down in P14. And he could be all the way up into the battle for the lead. He could have announced himself here, especially if we get something like a safety car here. This would be absolutely incredible for Mr. Pike, who he took that gamble. He went on the alternative. Because, well, clearly he was told that it was going to get worse. Everybody else was told, presumably, that it was going to get worse. But they ended up going for the intermediates to the intermediates. We should be seeing more drivers into the pits as Lucas Beisner takes the lead of the race off of Pasquale Ranieri. And surely at least the Alpine is going to roll the dice now. You'd think that he's going to come in at the end of this lap to switch onto a set of the wets because of how much he struggled on the mediums. We'll watch as Lucas Beisner comes in. Pasquale continues. And Jones comes in, so strategies being split again. As surely Beisner or Jones, one of them, is going to come in for those wets. There must be something that we don't know here in the comms box. But it's certainly looking incredibly wet. As Beisner onto inters. Jones onto inters. Leclerc surely is going to be on the intermediate tyres. Or maybe he's gone with our call. No, he's going to be on the inters. So everybody who's come into the pits now, so that's everyone barring Ranieri, Nowicki, Pike and Heikela, they've all come in for inters.
Well, Mr. Pike hasn't made as much progress as I thought he would have done. And it is starting to slow down, is the rain. It cannot make up its mind here in China. The rain's starting to slow. And for the drivers that have just moved to the intermediates, that's exactly what they would have wanted. They would have wanted it to start to slow down, get lighter, and that certainly is what happened. It's nowhere near as aggressive as it was just a few laps ago. And Mr. Pike now could be in heaps of trouble in this Grand Prix. Hickler just in front of Dennis Langrock. He's going to be holding up the McLaren ever so slightly. Thomas Laminen was able to move himself up into second place. He jumped his teammate Lucas Beisner in all of this. Of course, this is net places after the pit stops. But that rain has come to a complete standstill now here in China. And this really is tricky conditions to manage for all of these drivers. It starts pouring it down. The grip gets so little, and now it starts to completely stop. And it really does change the complexion of everything. So for Dennis Lamrock now trying to get past Hickler, looking to that inside line. Should be easy done on those fresh intermediates compared to those worn intermediates that Hickiller does have. And through goes the Papaya McLaren of Dennis Lanrock to extend his lead further and further out. But for Mr. Pike, who we thought got the strategy oh so right, the rain hasn't helped him at all. And if anything, I think the rain is going to stop within the next few moments because it is really, really slowed down. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does come to a complete stop at all.
I think that's what the drivers who hadn't come into the pits were waiting for. They were waiting for that time to stop. We look like complete mugs now with the fact that the rain has slowed down. But listen, I mean, we can't see the forecast. Only the drivers can. And I think Pasquale Ranieri now, I think he's going to wait until the rain does completely stop, until they are on a set, or until it is justified that they move on to a set of the dry compound of tyre. It's very hard to pick this weather. And Mr. Pike, I think he will also be hoping for something like that. He'll be hoping for points at this point in the race at an absolute minimum. But one thing's for certain, he's starting to struggle on those worn wets now with 12 laps to go in this race. He will be waiting for those dries. He took one gamble that found his way from P14 all the way up to P2. He's now defending very aggressively on Dennis Langrock, but Langrock could make his way through anyway, forcing his way to the inside line, squeezing Mr. Pike as much as he can. They're wheel to wheel as they come out of turn number 11, but Dennis Langrock just has that superior grip, and the McLaren is going to move up into P2. He's got 14.5 seconds now to bridge to Pasquale Ranieri, but with the pace that the TTM driver is showing at the moment, it should be a breeze. Ranieri, are you going to come into the pits on this lap, sir? Yes, you indeed are. You're going to come into the pits off of the intermediates, probably onto a set of the other intermediates, because it doesn't look dry enough to go onto a dry set of tyres. Mr. Pike, are you going to come in, sir? We'll see. We'll see. He's not. He continues. He's waiting for those dries, I think.
It's either that or I reckon IRT are just saying, stick out as long as possible. You're going to lose too much time in the pit lane and just try and defend for your life, for as many positions as possible. Because, excuse me, for a team like IRT, who haven't really scored the most amount of points this season, so far they have scored a total of 3 points coming into this round. Those points will be absolutely crucial if Mr. Pike is able to hold on for the next 10 laps. So they're probably just telling him, stay out for as long as you physically can, and then if you get too far down the order, we'll call you in. It's a worthy gamble from the Kick Sauber drivers of IRT to just try and gain as many points as possible as the rain is slowing. But just look at the grip difference that Laminin has over Mr. Pike. And Mr. Pike just has to concede that place because he's not got the grip to fight it into turns 9 and 10. But this really can throw everything up in the air because this is still the battle for the podium. Here with Thomas Laminin, Lewis Jones and Nando Moreira. As look at that, Mr. Pike did try squeeze the Red Bull to the inside line. Wasn't able to do so and defend the position successfully. Here comes Lewis Jones. Surely Nando Moreira to follow as well. He's going to look to the inside of the Kick Sauber and a worthy defence. Unfortunately for Mr. Pike, he's going to see himself start to fall further and further down the order. Pasquale came out 3 seconds behind Nando Moreira and down in 7th place just in front of Maximilian Lookhart. And for Moreira, he could still find his way onto the podium here. Maybe even a 1-2 finish is still on the card for TTM. After all the struggles that Moreira has been through, he is still fought on and he's getting closer and closer to 2nd place in this Grand Prix. And what a result that would be for TTM. That would surely put them top of the team standings. And to get 2 wins back to back, and with it being 2 different drivers for their first 2 wins on PC 2 weeks in a row, that would be something special for TTM, and certainly show that they're not a team to be messed with, and certainly a team on the rise.
Yeah, it's TTM and it's TF10. The 2 teams likely to take a 1-2 today, although 3.4 seconds between Langrock and Laminin. Unless Langrock makes a huge mistake, it's certainly more likely to be TTM as Nando Moreira tries to... well, he's going to try to get past Lewis Jones as soon as possible. He's going to want to split the TF10 boys as soon as he can to take that advantage. Mr. Pike, in the meantime, he's likely to be dropping back behind Pasquale Ranieri, who's switched onto a new set of the Inters. Mr. Pike squeezing Ranieri, but not quite enough as he goes through. Leclerc goes through. Mr. Pike squeezed off the track and through goes Leclerc! Incredible stuff! as Ranieri just got tangled up with Mr. Pike. And they are now dropping down. Ranieri only dropped down past Leclerc. Kokani gets past Mr. Pike. Haven't said that name in a while. And he goes up into 8th place. There's 4.6 seconds, though, between Leclerc and Nano Moreira. So the man who holds the fastest lap currently is probably not going to catch up anytime soon. If he is, though, then that would be an incredible achievement from the FVR driver. And I wouldn't put it past him because he was quick in qualifying. We know he's got that 1-lap pace. And so he's just going to need to demonstrate it to the end of this race. Villegas and Mr. Pike side by side. Mr. Pike with the inside line. Villegas with the outside. Trying to squeeze the ET8 driver as much as he can. And Mr. Pike just holding on to it for now. But Villegas around the final corner will take that P9 spot. And Mr. Pike really needs to come in before he completely destroys his own race. Switching back up, Lucas Beisner and Lewis Jones could be fighting. That may also be a issue glitch. But never mind. That's absolutely fine because there will be fighting soon in this battle. You can almost guarantee it. With just 9 laps left in this race, Jones will not just be happy with a P4, especially with his teammate being down in P15. If he's thinking about the team at this point in time, and Lewis Jones, he'll want to make that move. Nano Moreira, he'll want Lewis Jones to make that move so he can start fighting with the TF10 boys who will just... I mean, they could just put up a blockade at the moment, Can Lamminen and Beisner, if they so desire. Which means Jones and Moreira, without DRS assistance, will find it impossible to get past. Moreira, though, with a full battery tank, he will be ready to attack as soon as possible. Lamminen and Beisner and Jones, though, doing pretty well as well. Mr. Pike having issues going off the circuit and really not his day. He's got a puncher as well. So he's made 19 laps on those wets. There will be no more as he's going to now have to struggle his way back to the pits in a gamble that really did not pay dividends around the Shanghai International Circuit. I'm sure he's waiting for the wets. But I think this is actually the first time I've ever commentated on a puncher. So, first time for everything, as Mr. Pike is now going to have to struggle his way around to the pit lane. His teammate is in P11, so not gone IRT's way today. Dennis Langrock picking up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so he's not going to come under threat at any time. That is unless... the drivers behind are going quicker, which with Nano Moreira's fastest lap, you'd think they are. Pasquale Ranieri as well. But Lewis Jones, he's going to start pushing Lucas Beisner. He's to the inside line. He can see that Moreira's fast, and he'll want to build, well, just a blockade in between himself and Moreira so they don't fight too much. And so he knows that his time to make that move is now around the outside of Lucas Beisner of the first snail section. And he makes that move stick. Beisner, though, looking to the inside once again. The fighting today has been aggressive. It will continue to be aggressive. And Beisner just trying to cling to the outside line of Lewis Jones, but he doesn't have enough. Jones on that dry line. And he's retaken that P3.
Brilliant from the young Welshman to move himself up into 3rd place. And now looking at Thomas Lamminen in front, we can maybe still see him throw a threat at Dennis Langrock's race lead here. Yes, it's 3.3 seconds, but with the pace he's showing at the moment, Lewis Jones, he certainly could throw up a few surprises. He's still 2 tenths quicker than his previous fastest lap at a Grand Prix. So that certainly shows he still has some pace in the bag. And he was squabbling through the majority of it. So here comes Lewis Jones once again out of turn 12. It'll be in the slipstream of Thomas Lamminen in front, and we'll see if he's able to get close enough for a move. We can see Nando Moreira as well in the background getting closer and closer to Lucas Beisner. Both the TF10 Red Bulls under pressure here into the hairpin. Beisner defending that inside line. Moreira looking to the outside. He's going for the switchback here. It's the McLaren driver just won't be able to get the power down as early as that Red Bull. A bit of rear sliding from Nando Moreira unfortunately affects his run out of the corner. That gap at the front still 3.2 between Lamminen and Langrock. Lewis Jones sets a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We saw him make the move into turn 1 last time around on Lucas Beisner. He slivered up the inside, but this time not able to slide his car into a gap. Brilliantly defended there from Thomas Lamminen to keep that position and stay in 2nd place. Beisner still under pressure from Nando Moreira. 3.1 still that gap between Langrock and Lamminen. Just look at Lewis Jones again, a 10th up on his previous fastest lap. He's just showing an abundance of pace, is the young Welshman, as he's heading into turns 7 and 8. And this really is Lewis Jones needing to get by if he wants any chance of catching up to Langrock before the end of the race.
Well, I mean, they have closed in 4 tenths on the last couple of laps. They won't have that DRS to help them where they can just play the DRS games and close in. But at the moment, it's looking like Laminen and Jones at least are quicker than Langrock. And with 7 laps left to go in this race, 3 seconds does not look unbreakable yet. Give it another couple of laps and it will do. But with the pace they're going at the moment, it doesn't look unachievable. And the fact that they're also very ready to attack, just keeping that slipstream. Laminen looks like he's trying to break it. Lewis Jones doesn't want that because they're just both trying to fight their way forward to Langrock. That's the way that the Ferrari will surely look at it, because I don't think he can go it alone. And they've gained another 2/10 down that straight. So Langrock has prepared himself for the corners. He's not prepared himself, though, for those straights. And so the McLaren could be coming under threat towards the end of this one. 2.8 seconds between Laminen and Langrock for the lead of this race. Lewis Jones looking behind, waiting in the wings. Nando Moreira and Lucas Beisner as well waiting there, as Pasquale Ranieri is doing his best to catch up to them with 2 fast laps in a row. Maximilian Leclerc stealing it off him as well. He's just behind Ranieri, so he can't be going that much faster. But 3.8 seconds between himself and Moreira. We could be in for an incredibly exciting end, and we could be in for an end like the race start that we had here today. That was something special. And this race, it just feels like it's cooking up something special right at the end.
Yeah, it really is starting to get very tense here at the front of the field. And we could see a monumental scrap for at least second place in this Grand Prix. I'd like to quickly apologise if you had any coughing in the back. Podcast speaks. Still recovering from a bit of a cold, so I just thought I'll put that out there to say the apologies to you, Cockcaz, as well, for the coughs in the background sometimes. But there was a big slide there from Lucas Beisner, and this could allow Nando Moreira to just get close enough than he needs to get a move done into the hairpin. But Beisner very brave on the brakes into turn 11. That does allow him to pull away ever so slightly. It's going to be all about this run out of turn 12. Moreira with a nice one, but Beisner's just that tad bit better. And this is now all about the slipstream and the battery game as we head down into the hairpin. Beisner are using his battery now. That's going to allow him to just stay ever so slightly clear of Moreira, who's still going to look to the inside low. A huge send from Nando Moreira on the brakes. He's still brave enough to send it to the inside line. The track getting drier, so it means he's able to get the foot down earlier than he usually is. So there goes Moreira around the outside through the final corner. They're still side by side heading down this main straight. They're going to lose time to the 2 cars in front. That's crucial for their races as well. They can't afford to lose this much time. Moreira, though, still holding the inside. Beisner on the outside. Moreira holding as much as he can. He's trying to keep a wheel on that inside line. Beisner now to the inside for turns 2 and 3. Moreira with a big slide, and that's allowed Beisner to get straight back in front. The Red Bull staying in front of the McLaren once again. You can see the track really starting to dry up here in China. We could maybe see some slick running come the end of this race, and if someone further back decides to go for it, like Alessandro Finn, we could see someone charge their way up the field at a rate of knots. But once again, Lewis Jones stuck behind Thomas Laminen, and Nando Moreira stuck behind Lucas Beisner. The Red Bulls seeming to be the Great Wall of China at the moment, and no one able to get by just yet. Still, we have 5 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and there is plenty of opportunities to come. And will the rain stop enough for those soft tyres of Alessandro Finn to become the optimum tyre he wants to be on?
Yeah, keep an eye on Finn as he heads through. I don't think it's time now for those tyres, but I think he's just going to be testing for Maxi as the times are coming down. You can see Mr. Pike, who's going pretty much just for fun laps, just for hot laps at the end of this race, because he's only in P18. As Nando Moreira to the inside, Lucas Beisner, he retakes that P4, and these two are fighting a little bit too much for their liking, as they can't close that gap. Nowicki, by the way, and Villegas side by side into the same corner. And Nowicki just backing out. He doesn't want to make that fight with Villegas too aggressive, because he saw what happened early on in the race. He's to the outside line, but Villegas has that grip as they head into turn number 13, and he will retake the lead in this battle. But yeah, keep an eye on Alessandro Finn. It is not. Whoops! It is not time for that dry tyre yet. But we will have to wait and see. Villegas and Nowicki still fighting away. Nowicki's debut race for Thomas Enger Sim Racing not going quite the way that they would have wanted. Kokani down in P8 as well. This is probably the least pace that we've seen Thomas Enger have so far this season. And so they will be going back to the drawing board as they are in P8 and P10. Still picking up points, but by their expectations, this is an incredibly poor performance. Lewis Jones closer than ever to the back of Thomas Lamminen, who, well, he's lost 5/10 to Dennis Langrock on this lap, so surely a mistake came out somewhere. Dennis Langgoat, as somebody in the chat has said, and, well, maybe stealing my line for the end of the race if we get there. But, yeah, 3.5 seconds now. Langrock is extending his advantage at the top of the standings. And, well, surely this is his race to lose now. Even though Lamminen and Jones looked faster, Langrock has wrangled that advantage back.
Yeah, he certainly has. And I think the rain has stopped on the... No, it hasn't. It was just the way the cars were going so fast. I couldn't see if the rain was still there or not. But as we head out of the hairpin once more, Langrock getting ever closer to a race victory here and a maiden race victory here in TEE. And this would be brilliant for TTM, who came into this season not winning a single event that was PC only, and now could maybe on course for back-to-back wins. As there goes Lewis Jones round the outside of Lamminen. That was really nicely done from the Ferrari to move himself up into second place. Now the hunt begins. We've seen Lewis Jones be one of the fastest cars on the circuit. He was bottled up behind Thomas Lamminen, and now he is free to escape and gallop down the road towards the Papaya McLaren. Purple Sector 1 now for Lewis Jones. Lamminen with a big slide as well. That really does relieve the pressure from Lewis Jones. So now it's the Welshman versus the German. Who is going to come out on top? We will have a total of 3 laps to go when we cross the line next time around. 3 seconds is the gap. Lewis Jones needs to make haste here in this Grand Prix if he wants to get close enough for a move at the very least. But he's already 8 tenths up on his previous best lap. It shows he still is very much pushing the limits of that car, and you can see certainly is with the way the car is just sliding through the corners. That gap already down to 2.8.
Yeah, Langrock, I mean, I said it was his race to lose. He appears to be maybe trying to lose the race with the fact that that gap has come down so much in that last lap. I mean, he isn't trying to lose that gap. There is battling, by the way, between Pasquale Ranieri and Lucas Beisner for that P5 spot. Ranieri almost pushing Beisner off the track as he takes it off him. Nowicki and Villegas continuing to fight as Nowicki... He's decided that he does want to take it aggressive. He's going to fight Villegas like Villegas is fighting him, and there's contact between the two. Nowicki taking the lead of this battle into the final corner, and Villegas off the circuit. He certainly made a splash on his debut here today, and he's continuing to fight as we're on lap 26 of this race. Villegas to the outside, but he's not got the grip. He's not got the slipstream, and he's not got the momentum to take him through. But Ranieri and Leclerc have caught back up now to Moreira and Beisner. So we've got 2 more protagonists in this race, but 1.5 seconds between Lamminen and Moreira. It's unlikely that this will be a battle for the podium. Instead, it's a battle for P4. And, well, Langrock, 2.8 seconds ahead. Moreira, I mean, a potential podium is still on. A potential double podium for the TTM drivers. But I think unless there's a mistake drawn out of one of this lot, I think this is the way that the podium is going to stay.
Yeah, it certainly seems so. And Lewis Jones losing a bit of time. And of course, this pass out, I thought that yellow flag was Dennis Langrock. He was over to the right-hand side of the road. It was luckily Mr. Pike for TTM's case, but Lewis Jones must have just had his whole race-winning hopes flash in front of his eyes, because I just saw the McLaren to the side with a yellow flag symbol in the top left. Unfortunately, if you're an LLR driver or Lewis Jones, it wasn't Dennis Langrock, and he's still safe and sound. That gap's still 2.5 seconds at the end of this lap, and we can really, really see how much this track has dried, and it is time for those slicks, but it's too late for the likes of Alessandro Finn, because we only have 2 more laps of racing to go. If Lewis Jones wants to beat Langrock, he'll need to at least be 1.5 seconds faster per lap. That is the very least if he wants to get close enough to go for a move. DRS is now enabled as well, so maybe just make that 1.5 seconds faster on this lap. So we're now really seeing what could be a titanic scrap to the end as Pascal Raniele gets past Nando Moreira, but picks up a 3-second time penalty in the process. That is absolutely huge when it comes to the for Pascal Raniele's podium finishing hopes as well, because they're getting closer to Lamanon as we speak. Pascal on those fresher intermediates really able to keep them within a nice window as it currently stands, and he could catch up to Lamanon in front. And for Lewis Jones, he won't get close enough to Dennis Lamrock as Alessandro Finn now picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. Disaster for FVR, 7th and 17th from what looked like to be such a promising event as we headed into this one. But now with DRS open, Thomas Lamanon is going to be under pressure here from Pascal Raniele, as we're now going to see heading down into the hairpin before we start the final lap. Will the Alpine get close enough for a move? Very late on the brakes, nearly into the back of the Red Bull, and has to take somewhat of avoiding action, and he just has to sit behind for now. That gap between Lewis Jones and Dennis Lamrock now down to 1.9 as we cross the fire to start the final lap. He sets a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And now for the Scarlet Red Ferrari, he has a huge task on his hands. 9/10 in the opening 2 sectors of this Grand Prix. Is he going to be able to get close enough on this final lap, or will Lamrock just about hang on? Baesner versus Nando Moreira, they're side by side over 6th place in this Grand Prix. Lucas Baesner, is he just going to be able to hold on that outside line? He's seeming so. Drag race up into turn 6 on this final lap of the Grand Prix. This is over 5th place, maybe even 4th with Pascale's penalty, and there to the inside goes Lucas Baesner. And now Nando Moreira trying to do the switchback, not able to pull that one off. And for Moreira, his race has gone from bad to worse. As look at Pascalele trying to go around the outside there of Thomas Lamanon through turn 7 and 8. This really is starting to heat up. A little bit of DRS games maybe here. That's caused the yellow flag in all of this. And we could still see either Baesner or Moreira onto the podium as we head into turn 11 and 12. Once more, there's a yellow flag in front. That's Mr. Pike. Luckily for the top 2, they've been able to make it clear. But this is all about the DRS. Down into the hairpin. Look how close these drivers are over the last spot on the podium. Baesner getting all squirrely out of the turn 12 hairpin. DRS open for all 3 of them behind Thomas Lamanon. There goes Lamanon to the inside. He's surely not going to hold on to the Alpine. Moreira to the inside. He's going to try hold on. Look how deep they all go into the corner. Moreira with a big slide, but further up, Lamrock, who TTM thought they came into this season with no wins at all. So what a dream it is to win 2 on the bounce here in China. Who's going to come out in this battle for 3rd? It will be Lamanon from Baesner, from Pascalele, and Nando Moreira. It's had a big slide out of the hairpin, and he's actually got a puncture on the final lap of the Grand Prix. So for Nando Moreira, it's more heartbreak for TTM and Nando Moreira. He looked to try getting to 3rd place, but a puncture on the final lap dashes all chances and hopes of that. But for Lamrock, on the other side of the garage, it is sheer delight, and TTM win 2 back-to-back after such an incredibly tough PC side has gone so far. They really are showing themselves as a team that's rising up the ranks.
And it's a demonstration of what you can do if you are able to avoid chaos, as Iron Up picks up the fastest lap on the last lap of this race. It demonstrates what you can do if you can avoid chaos, and it was certainly chaos at the start. But Dennis Lamrock, I mean, he was up 5 positions on that first lap, and he was just able from there to dominate the race. Pasquale Raniele just didn't have the pace to keep up with him in that first intermediate stint, and I think we might be seeing him get that penalty removed, because I was watching on board with him at the end, and I didn't really see where he actually invalidated or where he ran off the track at any point. But in the end, victory went to Dennis Lamrock, and he fought through that chaos, and it was a very, very deserved victory in the end, leading from the first lap to the very last. And the McLaren driver takes the second win on the bounce for TTM. We thought if we saw a TTM driver on top today, it would have been Nando Moreira, as Dennis Lamrock, well, he hasn't really threatened the top 3 at any point so far this season. But all change today. Dennis Lamrock taking victory. Lewis Jones probably looking the quickest driver, especially on that last stint, in second, and then Thomas Lamanon in third, as well, the two TF10 drivers didn't work together as much as we thought they were going to. So the provisional standings are Dennis Langrock taking the victory in that race, Lewis Jones in second, Thomas Laminen in that third and final podium spot, Lucas Beissner in fourth. Then it's Ranieri, Leclerc, Kokeni, Nando Moreira, Mikolai Nowicki, and Pau Villegas rounding out your top 10. Then it's Robert Dinilescu, Miska Hikola, Marvin Gome, Odinatux, Ianut, Unai Vega, and Alessandro Finn, with Mr. Pike in P18. No retirements from this race, but difficult races for both the SET drivers, for Mr. Pike and for Alessandro Finn as well, who looked so promising. He started on the front row on his debut in this season, but ended up in P17. So, yeah, Dennis Langrock, incredible victory for the German, and he has got plenty of reasons to be proud of that.
Oh yeah, he certainly does. What a performance. Just in those tricky conditions when we thought they could have gone full wets, and then he didn't crumble under that pressure, and just how everything decided to just really go his way today. He really handled that one well, even when the pressure was on at the end of the Grand Prix as well, on the drying track from Lewis Jones behind. He was still able to just manage it and show no real lack of composure and no mistakes from Lucas Beissner. It was a well-earned race victory, and a very hard and well-earned drive as well. So, yeah, for TTM, they'll be in delight as well to come into this season, even the only event on any tournament, to now coming in, Nando Moreira last week, Dennis Langrock this week, to win 2 back-to-back in the same tournament. That is just going to boost their confidence levels more and more. And I wouldn't be surprised over the rest of this season we see them pick up a few more race wins.
Yeah, I mean 2 in a row. That's it could be scary for the rest of the teams, because now that TTM have got their feet under the table here in the PC side of things, well, we could be seeing some incredible stuff coming out of them for the next few next few races. Dennis Langrock taking that victory after looking absolutely nowhere the first 2 rounds. Nando Moreira winning last time out, and being pretty cooked in this race, although he cooked in qualifying. But in the end, TTM will be incredibly happy with that. Maybe not Nando Moreira, but everybody else at the team will be happy with 2 wins on the bounce. Special mention as well for TF10, who picked up 3rd and 4th. They looked as though they were going to be on for 2nd and 3rd, but Lewis Jones had a quality race once again, showing that he is probably the quickest driver in that NLR setup.
Yeah, he certainly is. Lewis Jones really is a driver to look out for. I think he's still only 14 years old, so still a very young gun in this championship, and someone who can really be looked on into the future. He certainly does have the speed, just needs to be a bit more consistent with it, and that certainly can come over time and over a few more years of racing. But yeah, a brilliant result from him as well. Just overall, for NLR, who unfortunately weren't able to get into Q3, from 11th on the grid to 2nd for Lewis Jones. He would have absolutely loved that performance, and he will be very happy with that going into next week. And if he's able to be picked again, then certainly we can maybe see him build off that and maybe get a bit of maybe try and get a race victory, but another podium finish could certainly be on the card. So Lewis Jones, certainly one to look out for the rest of the season, and maybe for other teams to maybe look out for as well.
Yeah, and I mean, as you mentioned, he's only 14, so we could be seeing him in F1 Esports in about 4 years' time. Whether F1 Esports is still a thing is another question, but we can certainly hope so. And he's certainly one of those drivers with the potential to be up there, because this isn't only just a demonstration of some of the drivers with their current abilities, it's also a chance for some of the lesser-known ones to showcase their abilities, and Lewis Jones definitely showcased his ability today, as did Dennis Langrock, because I think he is
of those drivers who race in, for example, WOR, I think he's the one in the lowest tier because he joins us in tier 5, I believe. And today he was beating out drivers in tier 3. So that shows you how close the gap is. That shows you what happens when you race at a track that you're so comfortable with. Having said that, Maxi Leclerc said that he was, well, I mean, he's the China merchant. He was absolutely nowhere in the race today. He was good in qualifying, to be fair, but clearly he's someone who hasn't practiced those intermediate conditions very often, and he was also a victim of the chaos at the start. Let's recap on some of that, as we had 3-4 wide moments in the first 3 laps. So it was something absolutely ridiculous. It is one of the most chaotic race starts that I have ever seen, and it's certainly one to look back on. If you're Tony Hitala and you missed it, definitely go and look at Dennis's tier 4. Okay, I'm thinking of the wrong person, but it's still impressive that he was able to be up there and beat some of those drivers up there. But he was just able to avoid that chaos in turn 1 as they all just fought away. And yeah, I mean, it's all about avoiding that chaos, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, at turn 1, I was on board with Moreira, and you could just see on the inside the other papaya car just sliver down that inside line, and that's all it took for Lanrock to get up to second place, and then at the end of the lap was fighting for first and was able to take that one off. I think it was Pasquale. No, sorry, Alessandro Finn into the first corner on the next lap, and it was just. Ever since then, he just never looked back. It just didn't seem his race win was ever really under too much pressure. Of course, it did start to get a bit nervy come the end of the race, but nothing that was uncontrollable for him. And it was just a really, really good drive overall. And Lewis Jones, another good drive. And even the TF10 drivers, yes, they're already in the top 10, but for Baesner and Laminen to still finish 3rd and 4th provisionally, that's still a really good drive from them as well, and I think that might give them the team's championship lead as well. So, yeah, for TF10, a really good result for them this evening.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you don't have the pace for that race victory, like they seem to not tonight, it's about picking up those opportunities, and they certainly did so in the top positions, pretty much fighting for the podium all race along. And yeah, for TF10, definitely a strong performance across the weekend that they have reason to be proud of. A lot of drivers
with weekends, to be fair, to be proud of, with well, the two of the top 3 starting from outside the top 10. So the shootout, making it through to the shootout isn't everything. It seems you just need to watch out for 3-4 wide moments in the first 3 laps. However, that doesn't come around very often. So. You never know. A poor weekend, though, from Thomas Enger Sim Racing. They didn't quite have the pace that they've demonstrated so far in qualifying, and then in the race, they were just absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, they've not really had the race pace so far this season, have Thomas Enger Sim. I mean, last time out in Abu Dhabi, Bohm did seem to have the race pace, just was unfortunately messed up a bit with the strategy. But yeah, it's just been overall a lackluster opening 3 races for Thomas Eng. Of course, they took pole and unfortunately put an illegal driver, should we say, for that race in Portimao, someone that wasn't eligible to drive. So that took some points away from them. And then in Abu Dhabi last week, of course, we saw Kokeni and Bohm get unfortunately messed up a bit by strategy. Of course, Kokeni was in that incident with one of the back runners, but yeah, they've not really shown themselves as good in the race as they are in qualifying. That's something they really need to work on for the rest of the season if they want to try and keep the championship challenge alive. But at the minute, it just seems that FVR, ETA, TTM, and TF10 are maybe just trying to start running away from things. And even for ETA and FVR, it was still a very disappointing evening from them. So that's really given TF10 and maybe TTM as well the upper hand in this one, and maybe give the momentum into their favour.
Yeah, and that is now round 3 of the season complete. We're a third of the way through, and battles are starting to unfold, with a few of the teams establishing themselves as the leading teams. We've done Portugal, we've done Abu Dhabi, and we've done China. Next week, we will head to the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. It is the penultimate race before the winter break, where we will head to Qatar. After that, we have Silverstone before Japan. Well, we have Silverstone on the 8th of January before Japan on the 15th, Mexico on the 22nd, Austria on the 29th, before we end off the season in Brazil on the 5th of the 2nd of February. So we still got a few months of racing action to go. But I think that may be the end of our broadcast. Thank you very much to those of you who have tuned in tonight. Make sure to give me a subscribe. If we're streaming it on my account, I'm going to plug my account because why not? And well, we'll see you again when we return for the United States Grand Prix. But until next time, it is goodbye.